I may attest that GAIA has been offering exceptional service, to our clients for numerous years. So something which is important is the legal ownership of the property. So what is the legal ownership of the property?
Okay, so in Antigua, we have land is possible to be held freehold, and indeed the developer owns the land freehold as free title and is developing that land into two parts. One will be the part for sale, and that will house the suites, and those are held within the land ownership possible in Antigua called the Condominium Act. It is a separate piece of legislation which allows multiple ownership over common land, and indeed each key that is developed, each key is freehold title. So the individual who makes the purchase will have title to their condominium suite. The other land of the development will be held for the common areas and will be held in the ownership of the developer and the management company. They will be responsible for the day-to-day maintenance and costs of that. The condominium, which is legislation controlled, is responsible for its maintenance through its own system of community charges and indeed its own insurance for risks such as hurricane and earthquake. So the community is controlled and managed by the Condominium Act, and individuals have freehold title and are free to will it to their heirs and successors, to sell it freely as they see fit at the end of the 5-year holding period, should they be a citizenship by investment buyer.
Thank you for that. Describe to us the real estate purchase process.
Okay, so for those who have not done this at all in Antigua before, we obviously since 2013 have had a citizenship by investment program, one element of which allows individuals to buy real estate to fulfill the investment component of the citizenship by investment program. And that process is the one we will be following. So an individual is identified by their agent who are approved by the Citizenship by Investment Unit. They are then introduced to the developer, who will then work through their system of due diligence to onboard that client. And once that is completed, the individuals, the family applying, would be asked to sign a reservation agreement confirming their commitment to the purchase and paying a deposit of $10,000 when they sign that reservation agreement. On completion of that signature and the developer receiving those funds, the sales contract is produced by our solicitors or lawyers, and the buyer signs that, the developer signs it, and they then pay on signing 10% net of these fees already received to the developer. And that sales contract is then attached to their applicant application form and sent to the Citizenship by Investment Unit to form their application for consideration. After 90 days, the Citizenship by Investment Unit has to either confirm, ask for further information, or decline with cause the application. When that occurs, if their applicant and their family is approved, the developer is informed, and in this state, like the case of a development under construction, funds are sent by the buyer to the escrow accounts of the developer. And once those funds are confirmed there, the Citizenship by Investment Unit is informed, and that applicant and their family become citizens at that point. Should the property be already completed when their application is approved, then escrow is not required and the proceeds flow straight to the developer on the submission by us to the CIU of the completion certificate. And at that time, the family would become citizens. So to be clear, if the construction is still underway, the applicant would become a citizen when their file is approved and the funds are beyond their control in escrow. So a very, very neat system, transitioning from their interest through their signing the contract, submission of their application. 90 days is the processing period. At the end of that time, they would be given confirmation of their status, and then they become citizens through the assistance of their applicant agent, and they would be granted their passports, which application they've already filled in. So it shouldn't be, for an efficient applicant agent and their clients, you should be able to have this all completed in less than 4 or 5 months from the declaring a wish to making an application and becoming a citizen and having your real estate position confirmed. Once title or the construction is finished and the certificates are signed, title passes to the owner, and they will receive their certificate of ownership, which is registered at the land registry in St. John's, and then they are the legal owner of that asset.
That is extremely clear. So thank you for guiding through that process. How are the funds dispersed, from the escrow agents to the developer?
Dominic, this is a very important part of the program to give buyers and applicants security and confidence in the system. The Citizenship by Investment Unit has worked very closely with developers to make it absolutely clear that beyond the deposit, all funds go into an independently controlled escrow account, and they're dispersed to the developer against engineers' reports, which are prepared by the developer's engineers. So, for example, as developer, if I reach foundations on a particular development, the engineer from the unit comes out, inspects the site, writes a report, submits it to show that the developer has reached foundations, and in the escrow account, which is signed at the same time as the escrow agreement is signed at the same time as the sales contract, is the schedule of payments. So let's assume the deposit is paid to the developer, all the funds are in escrow, the first foundation certificate goes in, the escrow agent reviews that certificate and sees that they are to disburse the foundation payment, which is detailed in the escrow agreement, and so on. Foundation, roof, completion, and transfer when the last payment is made. So that would be if a unit is still in construction. Of course, if it's already completed, funds would be held in trust in escrow by the solicitor or lawyer until transfer occurred, and then the developer would be paid. So all funds are kept from the developer until thresholds are met, and that threshold is set by the Citizenship by Investment Unit to make it a very transparent and very results-driven process, so people can have real confidence in the fact that their money is safely held and safely disbursed.
It's great to see that there is a great process in place to protect the client's funds. So congratulations.
No, it's super critical. Yeah.
Agreed. What are some of the additional expenses besides the purchase price of the real estate?
Well, in Antigua and Barbuda, the CEI, Citizenship by Investment Unit, obviously has a series of fees that they levy for the application, and that can be presented to individuals by the unit or their applicant agent. But as it relates to the purchase of real estate, there is a stamp duty or transfer tax payable by the purchaser of 2.5% of the contract value. In this instance at Moongate, we will be absorbing the costs or the fees relating to the escrow account. So in a lot of developments, that would be a cost to the buyer. That is not the case at Moongate. We will absorb that not inconsiderable cost. There are some legal fees. Obviously, the buyer will need to have a solicitor or lawyer act on their behalf to protect their interests. That usually commands a 1% fee against 1% of the contract value. That solicitor would be responsible for ensuring that the transfer was executed correctly and that the incoming buyer receives their title at the end of the process. There are some small banking fees. As everyone is aware, if you transfer funds, the bank will take a small amount. And other than that, that would cause the client, when they're buying the real estate, to see title in their hand. The developer, of course, has to pay 7.5% transfer tax. So the vendor 7.5%, the buyer 2.5%, and those are the significant costs.